class period, we'll have a visitor midpoint in the class just to see how things are going. But I wanted to just recap a couple of things for our last class period. So we had an opportunity to learn a couple of things online. So if you struggle to submit some assignments online, then our last class, we just took the time to learn those tools. So by now, you should feel comfortable and be submitting your assignments. So our last class period, we had 2 assignments due. What were those assignments? What did I ask you to do?
Values and our goals.
Yeah, stretch goals. So those 2 weren't hard to do, but they were very important because today we're going to be working on a vision board. So what I'm going to do before I start telling you about the vision board and what you're going to be doing today is I'm going to show a short video, but I also want to bring your attention to some assignments that are due on Monday. So moving into our class, you should start to be comfortable looking in and looking ahead to see what's due for not just this class, but for all of your classes. So if you're transitioning from high school to college, you're going to notice that, I'm giving you a reminder here, but that's not always going to be present in your classes. So it's going to be your responsibility to go in and check those assignments. So when you come into our class, we're just going to go into the modules, and we're doing a little bit of makeup work here because of our unexpected day that we were off. And so what I did is I moved a couple of things down to help you keep track of those. So I moved them into the appropriate module. If you go through our syllabus, you'll see these due dates pop up here. So this is another way to see what's due. So moving into Module 2, there are 2 things to help you. These are really easy assignments. When I say easy, it will take you no more than 45 minutes to get through both of them. So this doesn't take that much time to get through. So if you click on Module 2, there's some instructions. There's a video, and you're going to watch the video twice, and it demonstrates good study habits. It shows you, gives you some tools and some tips for good study habits, which I wish I would have had when I was starting college like you, because I didn't do very well when I first started college. And I had to come back and start over, and I did that several times. So you'll watch this video first, and then you'll watch it again twice, and then you have to take a quiz, which is linked inside that module. How many of you have already done this? You saw the assignment and you jumped ahead? No? Okay, so we're all fresh here. The quiz is not actually worth any points, but you doing the quiz is what demonstrates that you have gone through the module. So you have to go through the quiz even though it isn't funneled into the grade book. When I see you've done the quiz, when I see that you've gone through the videos, when I see that you've clicked on those links, because I can see where you're at in the class, then you'll earn your points for that. Now the second one is a critical thinking exercise, and it's demonstrating 2 different types of students that are struggling to get their homework done. And we're just asking you to identify which one do you identify most with, and we're asking you to problem solve as far as what can be done to help these students in their perspective in getting things done. So those are the 2 things that I'd like you to do by Monday, and I put the due date at midnight. So you have plenty of time to get that assignment done. Now, does that make sense? Okay, excellent. So we know what our expectations are. The next thing I want to talk about is stretching ourselves. Real stretch goals. Now I had an opportunity to look into some of your ideas, your thoughts. Does everybody have something down here that's present today? Anybody want to change their stretch goal? Okay, so when we're looking at stretch goals, we have, these are good stretch goals. Okay, pass my classes, and you're very specific as far as what you want to do. Better at school. So let's take a look at what stretch goals should look like. They should make you uncomfortable. Now, I can't be a judge as far as what makes you uncomfortable because you know what that is. But I'm going to show you about 5 minutes of a video that demonstrates what that should feel like for you. We have a lot of stages that we can go in, and it's really nice to feel comfortable, and we can get real upset when people like to push us out of our comfort zones, or when, for unforeseen reasons, we're pushed out of our comfort zone, but that doesn't help us grow. If you want to be exactly where you're at today, 10 years from now, do exactly what you're doing. If you have aspirations to do more, you have to push yourself, or somebody will push you into those situations. So that's also a possibility. So there's some concepts out there which talk about this. This is not new stuff. This is stuff that's been out there for a while. A lot of people know this, but the pushing yourself. How many of you work out? Okay, it's the same for any other goal, not just fitness goals. So you know, I mean, how many, for those of you that work out, how many of you, there's a lot of days that you don't feel like it? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's the same way it is when we're trying to reach these other goals. Our nature is to make ourselves feel comfortable, to dive into those things that make us feel comfortable, to avoid those uncomfortable feelings. But sometimes we have to embrace those feelings and move forward even if we are highly uncomfortable and we really don't want to do it. So I'm going to show you just 5 minutes. I'm not going to show you the whole video, but just 5 minutes of this video. The most relevant part and you know what's interesting? This man is from Nebraska, from Lincoln. Okay, and just to let you know, he starts a story. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but he starts a story about how he had this great job, and he went in and he was fired from his job, and that pushed him into this growth that he didn't actually want to be pushed into, but it turned out for the better. Okay, computers down. There we go.
In which you work, live, and play. They're all a proverbial fishbowl that dictates your growth. So the first growth ring represents a low-performing, low-growth environment called stagnation. Stagnation is understood by having to follow too many steps and permissions and minutiae. Thus stifles creativity, independent thought, and action. To imagine an environment such as this, think no further than our state and federal governments. Now the antithesis of stagnation is chaos, also low growth and low performing. Chaos can be caused by internal or external events or conditions. We see chaos occur at times in business mergers, natural disasters, and horrific events like 9/11. Chaos is having zero predictability or control over inputs and outcomes. Coming back down the growth rings, next to stagnation is the most desirable environment, order. Order is knowing that what you do or what is happening in your environment leads to a predictable outcome. And in predictability, comfort is found. But comfort is also what makes order so dangerous. Because science shows that anytime you continually do something or even think about something the same way, you'll eventually stop growing. And this applies to every living thing, even our dog. You see, if Aspen had a chance, she'd choose comfort 6 days a week and twice on Sundays. But too much growth-limiting order would have prevented her from becoming a therapy dog. And had this been allowed, think of the lives this gentle soul would not be touching today. So before your order continues to limit the way you think and act, remember what I said earlier. Growth only occurs in a state of discomfort. Now think about the power of that phrase. Growth only occurs in a state of discomfort. I can unequivocally state I wouldn't be standing on this stage today without my uncomfortable order disrupting day 9 years ago. By the way, I'm not recommending you go get fired to see if leads to a TED Talk, but when you feel discomfort hit, that means you've entered the complexity ring. Complexity is nothing more than changed order. But when your order is changed, outcomes are no longer predictable, and it's unpredictability that makes you uncomfortable. And well, most times, your visceral response to discomfort is not just no, but hell no. You can actually learn how empowering it is to consciously acknowledge discomfort, and then when appropriate, choose complexity over order. And I know seeking discomfort sounds odd, not many people do it, but you have to learn to embrace it, because it's the only environment where sustained or exponential growth can occur. Okay, to weave high growth complexity into the fabric of your lives, there are 3 primary ways it can be triggered. Complexity trigger number 1 is it can be forced upon you. When I got fired, I didn't have a chance to stay in order. Complexity was selected for me. And when this happens, how much you grow depends on how you respond to it. Now, I could have remained angry. I could have used it as an excuse. But what I actually learned is that I suck as an employee. And I'm much better off accepting the risks of running my own company. Complexity trigger number 2, someone can help you get there. This is the role of parents, teachers, coaches, and bosses. Because left on their own, people will consciously or subconsciously select the comfort of order. And they then need to be pushed into complexity in order to continue growing. My youngest daughter spent most of her high school life training to play tennis. And her coach was pretty familiar with our work on complexity and the growth rings. So I called him up one day to check on Maddie's progress, and I was able to phrase my question like this. I said, "Hey Lee, how long has it been since Maddie's been pushed deep into complexity?" And his response, "Funny you'd ask, Bill. We got there yesterday. She broke down into tears on the tennis court." Well, knowing how tough my daughter is, and the fact that she never cries, told me she was deep into complexity. But friends, this is where critical developmental decisions are made, because the old Bill, the pre-growth ring Bill, would have intervened and wanted to know what was making her so uncomfortable. Then I would have done everything I could to try and get her happy again. What I really would have been doing is removing the complexity and putting her in order. I actually would have been stifling her development. But the new post-growth ring Bill relished in his daughter's discomfort. And it was the coach's next words that told me everything I needed to hear. He said, "But Bill, I gotta tell you, it took a heck of a lot more to get her to the limits of complexity this month than it did last month."
That's a great stopping point. So, obviously, we can be pushed into this complexity by forces unforeseen to us. How many of you have had that happen already in your lives? Okay. And you may think, oh, at the time, it's like the worst thing in the world, but it may turn out to be one of the best things for you. And then, of course, we can put ourselves there by going to school, for example. Picking instructors that you know are going to push you. Today, we're going to create a vision board. This is directly related to your stretch goal. Noah, I still need your stretch goal. Have it. What are your thoughts on it?
Good grades.
You're going to use grades as well? Okay. All right. So I have all the materials. I want you to be specific about this. Make sure it pushes you. So this, if you are already a really high grade student, you want to go a little bit higher for that stretch goal. So this has to be achievable, but something that makes you uncomfortable. Right now, I'd rather have you identify those stretch goals than somebody throw you into it. As an example, I had a student, this was last term, he created one just to take better care of himself. And so he originally was a part of this, and then he used this again. He went back and he reworked his stretch goal for his major presentation. So he just had some very specific things that he could do to take care of himself. So this is an example of a personal taking care of myself better, and that can be something. If you didn't have anything down, we now have everything. Oh, almost. Not everybody's here. Okay, what I have are some tools here for you to create a vision board. I also have some magazines if you want to get creative and find a picture that represents your stretch goal. Okay, that could be related to the why you want to earn higher grades or whatever it is, why you want the stretch goal. So, for example, for higher grades, you might find something that's in your occupation, and that's gonna help you position yourselves in that area. So I have the magazines here. We're gonna go ahead and open this up for you for your vision boards. Go ahead and come on up and grab one of these papers. All at once. And we'll get started. I'll get you all little scissors at each of these. To your table. Use these tools.